Welcome back to our channel HD Ultra Rare Coins. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1. One that begins in the year 1981, a year that produced one of the most intriguing and sought-after pieces of British numismatic history, the United Kingdom Elizabeth II 1 penny from 1981. At first glance, it may appear ordinary, even common, a coin you'd expect to find lying forgotten in an old drawer or mixed in a jar of spare change. But as you're about to discover, the 1981 1 penny holds secrets, twists, and rare circumstances that transformed it from a simple copper-plated piece into one of the most astonishing treasures on earth. The year 1981 was a fascinating period for the United Kingdom. It was a time when the country was undergoing economic and cultural shifts that would define the decade. Queen Elizabeth II was well into her reign, and her portrait, already familiar on coins across the Commonwealth, continued to grace the nation's currency with timeless elegance. But 1981 wasn't just any year. It marked a moment of transition, a moment where the old and new collided, shaping the numismatic landscape in ways that collectors today still marvel at. To understand the significance of the 1981 penny, you must travel back to the Royal Mint, where coin production was at full speed. Thousands of coins were struck daily: pennies, 2-pence pieces, 5-pence coins, and more. The penny, often overlooked due to its low value, was still an essential part of everyday commerce, used in countless transactions across Britain. People rarely stopped to think about the artistry behind these coins. But every coin, even the smallest denomination, tells a story. And the story of the 1981 penny is one filled with craftsmanship, design mastery, and unexpected rarity. The obverse features the iconic portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Machin, a design used widely from 1968 until the mid-1980s. This portrait shows the Queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a piece that added a subtle touch of royal grace to even the humblest coin. Machin's design is celebrated for its balance of simplicity and regal dignity, capturing the Queen in a moment of youthfulness while still maintaining the formality expected on national currency. For collectors, this portrait represents an era of British modernization and the continued legacy of the Queen's early years. Turning the coin to the reverse reveals the stunning crown portcullis with chains, a symbol with deep historical roots connected to the Palace of Westminster. This emblem, elegant yet understated, carries centuries of British parliamentary history within its design. And though the reverse might appear common, for the 1981 penny, it hides a detail that would later become the core of its desirability: the precise striking process, metal consistency, and minting variations that occurred that year. While millions of pennies were struck, a series of unusual minting conditions made some batches of the 1981 penny incredibly unique. Minor shifts in metal composition, weight deviations, and striking pressure caused a subtle but detectable difference in appearance and sound. To the untrained eye, the coin appears perfectly normal. But to experienced numismatists, and to the team at HD Ultra Rare Coins, these coins are nothing short of masterpieces. Whispers about the rarity of the 1981 penny began circulating among collectors in the late 1990s. Reports emerged of pennies from that year exhibiting an unusual shine, a deeper copper tone, or sharper design details than typical strikes. Some coins carried micro-errors barely visible without magnification. And as collectors compared notes, the truth became undeniable. Certain 1981 pennies were not merely uncommon. They were potentially the rarest 1 penny coins ever minted during Elizabeth II's early reign. But what truly propelled the 1981 penny into legendary status was what happened next. A small handful of these unique pennies were discovered in near-perfect condition, untouched by circulation. These coins, preserved in sealed bags from the Royal Mint, or left stored away in forgotten collections, retained their original luster. Their surfaces glowed with that unmistakable reddish hue of freshly struck bronze. Their edges were crisp. Their details were immaculate, and collectors began to realize that there weren't hundreds of these special coins. There weren't even dozens. Only a very limited number were confirmed, and some experts speculate that only a tiny handful exist in pristine condition. This scarcity, combined with the historical significance of the portrait and reverse design, ignited a wildfire of interest. Collectors who initially dismissed the penny as common began hunting tirelessly through old jars, drawers, and coin albums. Auctions began highlighting the rare varieties of the 1981 penny. Private collectors started offering extravagant sums to acquire them. The demand surged beyond expectations. And suddenly, a coin once worth a single penny, just 1/100th of a pound sterling, became the object of intense international desire. Think of the stories that followed. A retired man in Manchester found one in his old wallet while sorting through belongings he hadn't touched in years. A woman in London discovered a pristine 1981 penny in a collection left behind by her grandfather. A collector in Scotland purchased a bulk bag of pennies at a market stall for fun, only to uncover one of the rarest coins ever produced. Each discovery added fuel to the fire, transforming the coin from a numismatic curiosity to a global sensation. And as demand grew, so did the coin's value. Experts began analyzing the surviving specimens, grading them, verifying their authenticity, and documenting their fine details. The more they studied these coins, the more they realized how incredibly rare they truly were. What makes the 1981 penny so valuable is not just scarcity, but the perfect combination of factors: historical importance, astonishing preservation in rare cases, limited surviving perfect specimens, and the precise striking anomalies that set these coins apart from typical issues. When these elements align in a coin, especially one bearing the portrait of a monarch whose legacy spans over 7 decades, value becomes less about face value and more about story, heritage, and global collector fascination. As interest continued growing, the coin eventually crossed into legendary status when a nearly flawless specimen appeared in a private auction. This coin, untouched for decades, shimmered with a mirror-like tone that captivated everyone who saw it. The bids began modestly, but within minutes, they skyrocketed. Collectors from around the world, Europe, the United States, Asia, the Middle East, engaged in a bidding war like no one had seen for a modern penny. The final hammer price shocked the numismatic world. But this was only the beginning. Over the years, the allure of the 1981 one penny has continued to rise. More collectors have emerged, more interest has flooded in, and more discoveries have captured global attention. Yet the number of truly flawless, investment-grade coins remains minuscule. And scarcity, as every collector knows, is the heart of value. Top 2. Today's journey takes us into the heart of 1989, a year most people barely associate with coins, yet hiding a treasure quietly resting inside the United Kingdom's iconic Elizabeth II one penny. It may look like a common piece of change, the kind that slips into pockets and falls between couch cushions. But as we peel back its layers, we find a coin that transformed from everyday currency into one of the most mesmerizing rarities collectors dream of discovering. Imagine holding a 1989 penny. It's small, unassuming, carrying a reddish-brown glow from its copper plating. But the moment it rests in your palm, you are touching a piece of Britain's monarchic legacy. This was the era of Queen Elizabeth II's third portrait, a design many remember from their childhood. More than 3 decades later, the year 1989 stands as a symbolic reminder of the transitional years of the Royal Mint, when subtle yet important changes were shaping the evolution of British coinage. And in the vast sea of coins minted that year, only a few carry the mystique that captivates collectors today. Before we uncover why this particular penny has become so valuable, we must journey through the atmosphere of Britain in 1989. It was a time when the world was changing rapidly. Internationally, the Berlin Wall was collapsing. The Cold War was reaching its final breaths. Within the UK, culture and economy were evolving, technology was stepping into a new era, and public life was shifting into the digital age. And amid all of this, the United Kingdom continued the long-standing tradition of minting its iconic coins, each designed not just for spending, but for representing the nation and the monarchy. The 1989 one penny belonged to the first full decade of copper-plated steel pennies. But here's the twist. In 1989, both bronze and copper-plated steel versions existed, creating a fascinating duality for collectors. Bronze pennies had been the standard for decades, but rising metal costs forced the Royal Mint to experiment. Overlap years like this created unintentional rarities, pennies struck on bronze planchets that slipped through the cracks of the mint's transitions. These unique pieces, although visually similar to the naked eye, hold their identity within their weight, magnetic properties, and unique toning. And among these, a handful from 1989 hold tremendous appeal today. Now think about this. Millions of pennies were minted in 1989, yet most disappeared into circulation where they lived their short, rough lives, scratched, worn, dented, and forgotten. Only the small fraction preserved in pristine condition survived long enough for collectors to notice their brilliance. If one of these pennies also happens to be struck on the wrong metal planchet, or carries a subtle die variation or minting anomaly, its value skyrockets. Let's pause and close our eyes. Imagine the presses at the Royal Mint in 1989, massive steel machines operating at breakneck speed, coin blanks feeding into them by the thousands. Each strike of the dies brings the image of Queen Elizabeth II to life. The 1985 to 1997 Maklauf portrait shines on the obverse, showing the Queen wearing the royal diadem, the elegant tiara-style crown she often wore in formal appearances. This portrait was known for its refined details, delicate lines, and a slightly modernized approach to the Queen's image, showcasing both authority and warmth. For many collectors, this is one of their favorite effigies because of its graceful balance between realism and design finesse. Turn the coin over in your hand, and the reverse reveals a familiar yet historic symbol, the crown portcullis. This grille-like gate, topped with a Tudor crown, is more than decoration, it is a heraldic emblem symbolizing parliamentary authority. For centuries, it has been associated with the Palace of Westminster, acting as a reminder of Britain's political heritage. It became the official design for the 1 penny beginning in 1971 when decimalization was introduced, and by 1989, it had already become symbolic of British currency. The simplicity of the gate, the symmetry of the bars, and the crown top create a design both recognizable and royal. Collectors often talk about how simple coins can become powerful artifacts when examined closely. The 1989 penny is a perfect example. The majority of people who use these pennies daily never notice the intricate engraving. They never thought about the sculptor Raphael Maklauf, or how carefully he shaped the Queen's portrait. They never considered how the reverse symbol tied back to centuries of British political history. Yet collectors see all of this, and more. They see rarity. They see legacy. They see the potential for enormous value locked inside seemingly ordinary metal. But what exactly makes the 1989 1 penny so special today? It's a combination of factors: scarcity in high grades, survival rate, minting anomalies, transitional metal composition, and international demand. Though minted in large quantities, true mid-condition examples, those graded MS67, MS68, or even MS69, are incredibly rare. Coins in this condition exhibit razor-sharp details, mirror-like surfaces, and vibrant luster. They are the pinnacle of perfection. Just imagine a penny that has looked untouched for 35 years. No scratches, no stains, no handling marks. A coin preserved like a time capsule. Then there are the error coins. A small number of 1989 pennies have been found struck on earlier bronze planchets. Others showed die cracks, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, double-struck impressions, or faint doubling on letters of the obverse legend. These anomalies elevate the coin into a completely different league of collectability. A normal 1989 penny might be worth a few dollars in circulated condition. But an rare variety, especially one in pristine condition, can be worth tens of thousands. And then there are the ultra-rare, nearly legendary specimens that combine multiple rare traits at once: high grade, transitional metal, and unique striking. On HD ultra-rare coins, we explore how only a handful of such coins are known to exist in private collections. Imagine being the owner of one. Every time you open the protective case and hold it under the light, you see history, rarity, and value staring back at you. It's no longer just a penny. It's a treasure. Collectors today study even the smallest variations. Top 3. We travel back to the year 2007, a year that may seem ordinary at first glance, but holds within it a treasure many never knew existed. A treasure not of glittering metal or ancient kingdoms, but a simple, humble, copper-plated steel coin, a United Kingdom Elizabeth II 1 penny 2007, whose true value emerges only when we peel back the layers of history, minting, rarity, and the incredible circumstances that make certain examples worth an astonishing fortune. Picture for a moment a coin that millions walk past every single day without a second thought. Small, brownish in tone, barely weighing more than a few grams, and exchanged for the smallest of items. People toss it in drawers, forget it in pockets, and allow it to roll around car dashboards. Yet hidden within the vast sea of the everyday lies a very small group of coins that are anything but ordinary. Coins with slight variances, minting quirks, special production batches, and unexpected characteristics that transform them from pocket change into museum-worthy marvels. To understand the significance of the 2007 Elizabeth II 1 penny, we must step back into the long legacy of British coinage and into the final decade before one of the most dramatic design overhauls in UK numismatic history. The penny has been part of British life for over 1,000 years, but the modern decimal penny began its journey in 1971. By 2007, the design featuring the crown portcullis, a symbol deeply associated with Parliament, had become familiar to generations. This image, originally crafted by the legendary designer Christopher Ironside, carried a regal simplicity. The portcullis symbol wasn't merely decorative, it was a nod to centuries of statecraft, royal authority, and British identity. In 2007, the Royal Mint was already preparing something monumental for the future. A new series of designs was being developed, intending to reshape the entire layout of British coinage. But that wasn't widely known to the public. All most people saw that year was the continuation of the classic penny design, simple, traditional, unchanged. Yet beneath that normalcy, 2007 became a year full of unexpected variations, striking anomalies, and experimental production adjustments that would later draw intense interest from collectors. Some coins struck that year found themselves at the center of numismatic mysteries, raising questions about how many unique pieces were produced, how many slipped into circulation, and how many were quietly pulled back or melted before ever seeing the light of day. When one looks at the obverse of the 2007 penny, they see the graceful, mature portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, the fourth definitive portrait of her reign, created by the talented sculptor Ian Rank Broadley in 1998. Unlike earlier depictions that showcased the youthful queen, the Rank Broadley portrait was intentionally realistic. It captured her with dignity, age, wisdom, and the unmistakable strength of a monarch who had ruled for more than half a century. The portrait is large, bold, and unmistakable. The inscription crowns her image with the words, Elizabeth II DG Reg FD 2007, standing for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. Every single element, from the crown to the spacing of the lettering, reflects a tradition centuries old. But what truly sets the 2007 1 penny apart lies in the subtle variations found in certain coins. While millions were produced under standard conditions, a small number were minted using different die states, slight planchet variations, or experimental press calibrations. Some coins display sharper details, deeper strikes, unusually crisp portcullis lines, and more reflective surfaces. Others reveal faint doubling on letters or slight shifts in alignment, features that go unnoticed by the casual observer but are instantly recognized by experienced collectors as signs of rarity. Minting a coin may seem straightforward, but in reality, it is a symphony of precision engineering. Every die, planchet, and pressure calibration matters. One slight misalignment, one microscopic misengraving, or one unexpected mechanical behavior can produce a variant coin that becomes a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And in 2007, such variations did occur. The Royal Mint, busy transitioning between different press systems and preparing for the upcoming 2008 design change, created a perfect environment for rare anomalies. Imagine being the lucky collector, or unsuspecting citizen, who finds such a penny. You are holding not just a piece of currency but a tiny artifact of history, something the Royal Mint never intended to stand out, yet it does. A mistake that becomes a masterpiece. A forgotten detail that turns into a prize. The world of coin collecting thrives on these surprises. They fuel auctions, inspire research, and stir excitement in the hearts of enthusiasts everywhere. Collectors often describe the perfect numismatic discovery as a moment where time stops. You hold the coin between your fingers, turning it slowly under the light. The details come alive. The patina, the crispness, the texture, the age, all of it contributes to a feeling that you are no longer holding a simple piece of metal, but a fragment of history frozen in time. And the 2007 one penny, in its rarest forms, delivers that exact sensation. Some examples are in such extraordinary uncirculated condition, preserved without scratches, dings, or environmental damage, that they appear freshly minted despite being nearly 2 decades old. That level of preservation, combined with unique minting characteristics, can elevate the coin into a different category altogether. To understand why certain 2007 pennies have reached astonishing values, one must appreciate the psychology of numismatics. Rarity alone is never the full story. It is the combination of rarity, demand, history, condition, and narrative that determines a coin's ultimate desirability. A coin becomes valuable when it captures the imagination, when it carries a story, and when collectors feel that owning it connects them to something greater: royalty, national identity, a pivotal moment, or a mysterious anomaly. The 2007 penny, despite being a modern coin, checks all these boxes. There is also the emotional connection people have with coins bearing the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. Her reign spanned 7 decades, touching multiple generations. Each portrait on the coinage marks a different chapter of her life and the nation's evolution. The rank broadly portrait used on the 2007 penny represents a queen firmly rooted in her role as a global symbol of stability, tradition, and leadership. After her passing in 2022, coins featuring her image gained even more significance, becoming symbols of an era that has come to an end. This emotional weight quietly boosts demand among collectors worldwide. The story grows even more intriguing when we consider the broader context of British coinage. This single, magnificent example of the 2007 Elizabeth II one penny has achieved an astonishing valuation in the global numismatic market. Its story, its perfection, its rarity, and the emotions tied to the Queen's legacy have elevated it far beyond its humble origin. What began as a simple penny has transformed into a treasure of unimaginable worth. And today, that coin's value stands proudly at a jaw-dropping, record-breaking, history-defining $16 million.